up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of Neon Trash. This month, all month long, we're going to be covering Black History Month. That means movies that have prolific black actors, black directors, black soundtrack composers, and, you know, I can't wait. This was a lot of fun to do by myself last year, and this year we're going to have the group dynamic, starting things off with Bee Cee and Alivia doing a double feature. Bee Cee, what have you got for numero uno?
So to kick off our Black History Month, I'm bringing something that we don't usually cover on the channel. I'm bringing a documentary, and it is from director Marlon Riggs. He was a gay black man. He unfortunately passed away in the 90s, but he put out a bunch of documentaries that explored African American identity, whether it was race or sexuality, and oftentimes both. And I'm actually starting us off with the film that, it was his final film. It's called Black Is, Black Ain't. I had learned about Marlon Riggs in Pan-African Studies when I was doing that for my minor at Kent State University, and his films are very, very powerful, and they're necessary. I mean, for everyone to see. I mean, if you're a black person, you see yourself in these films. You see your stories being told from a genuine perspective, and if you're not a black person, these are the things that you need to hear, that you need to see. It's not always easy, it can be uncomfortable, it's sad, it's scary, but that's the history, that's black history. There's a lot of unfortunate and sad things that have happened throughout, in America and throughout the world to black people. They've been mistreated, disrespected in every form, and unfortunately they still are today. And his films very much, they still resonate, they still hit hard, and I felt like to start off the month, like we needed to see the authentic experience told from someone within these communities.
Excellent selection there, Bee Cee. I can't wait to check that out. Now, what have you brought in store, Alivia?
I brought Pariah, and the director is a black queer woman. And the story is also involves black actors and a black story.
Okay.
So, all around, multiple representation.
Both movies that are exploring identity, really. One is a documentary, one isn't.
I can't
Perfect
wait
to roll together.
Yeah. Hell of an intro to the old Black History Month. I'm going to be digging something up. I don't know if these trailers exist. Hopefully so. Stick around, guys. We'll be right back.
The likelihood that you could die at this moment. AIDS forces you to deal with that and to look around you and say, hey, I'm wasting my time if I'm not devoting every moment to thinking about how can I communicate to black people so that we start to look at each other. We start to see each other. Black is, black ain't, black is, black ain't, black is, black ain't, black is, 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 black is, black is, black is, black is, black is, come on, come on, yes. I say my black is and black ain't. Black is and black ain't. Black is blue and black is red. And black is a tank.
Black will get you.
And black is light.
And black will leave you alone. Black can get you over. And black can set you down. Black can let you move forward, and black will make you stumble around.
It's so hot, and black is so low. Black can say yes, and black can be your best friend. Be cozy as the night. Black can do you in. Make you fuss and cuss and fight. Black is black, and black is blue. Black is bright,
black is you.
Black is Black Ain't by Marlon Riggs. That's what we just got done watching here, and I think we're all still maybe just a little bit misty-eyed because I mean it being his last work. You see, you know, a lot of scenes of him, you know, on his pretty much on his deathbed there in the hospital. I don't want to say this. It just really kind of helps like capture, I think, you know, what it is to, you know, be, you know, African or black, you know, here in America. Like it's I mean, not only black, but, you know, even more different from that, to be, you know, homosexual and black on top of it, you know, and all the struggles all that entails. Like, it was just, I mean, you know, it just got gut punched, you know. And, you know, I think one of the more fascinating things for me was that this seemed like there's like really something for just about anyone to like identify with. Like, there was a lot of talk about, you know, masculinity, you know, and what it is to be a black man. Well, I mean, a lot of that also, you know, just entails what it is, you know, to be a man when it comes to, you know, being the strong, silent type, to repress emotions, you know. It's like, wow, no, I totally hear that. Honestly, I feel like, I mean, this came out like 1995. I mean, that was like my freshman year of high school. Like, I almost felt like I was done a disservice by not having this shown to me. You know, like, I feel like my education's been done a disservice by not knowing who he is. Like, this, I mean,
Absolutely.
Bee Cee, thank you for bringing this over. Like, this is a fantastic start to Black History Month. I mean, this is, yeah, I mean, it's not typically what we do, you know, with a documentary, but, I mean, that doesn't stop this from absolutely, this needs to be watched by every single human being in this country. Period.
Well put.
My thoughts at the end of this, it just made me realize how when I first started college, one of the requirements was to take one Black Studies class. And at CSU, the Black Studies area isn't even a department. There's not, like, that should be a department, like, it should be, you know, more common and more encouraged to take those classes. And I remember when it was a requirement to take one of these classes, everyone was like, oh, why do we have to take one of these classes? Like, almost like they felt they already knew everything that they needed to know based on what they learned in high school, whether it be slavery or the civil rights movement. But I think, especially after watching this, I realized you can't ever know everything about it or enough. So I think it's really important, like, you're not going to watch this super often, but I think everyone should see it at least once because it's important. You know, it's a heavy one, so you're not going to watch it super often, like I said, but, like, it's so heavy, and you can tell the director was passionate about this, obviously, so it's definitely something really important to watch at least once, and hopefully that encourages people to, you know, want to learn more and be better and learn from other people's experiences. So
I feel like this movie definitely should be shown, you know, in classes, you know, high school classes, college courses. I mean, hell, this should be played on PBS. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
For like Black History
Yes.
Month. A lot of people should have access to this film because it gives you an insight to the black experience. And, you know, as a white man, I mean, I can't fully understand what another individual goes through, but I can be empathetic and hear their point of view,
Yes.
lend an ear, and just listen. And that's what this movie is all about. It's shutting the fuck up for a second and letting the filmmaker tell his story, tell a broader perspective too, which is one of the main things I loved about this film is it starts out kind of conventionally enough, you know, as a documentary goes, but by the end of the film, it agresses into something so much more. It's a human story, and I felt uplifted as a man, you know, as an American, as an individual, as a person that, you know, has had black friends and, you know, Asian friends and, you know, Indian friends, and someone that's just a human being, you know, and that's what I gleaned from this film is that it's okay to be who you are and be proud of who you are, and don't let people put you down, you know. And society in America is so designed to keep you under its boot heel if, you know, you aren't reaching a certain economic status or you have a certain, you know, ethnic lineage. So, I mean, yeah, this is such a powerful and captivating piece. I was definitely choked up during this documentary, and I can't really ever say that about most documentaries. I find them to be informative and, you know, well made. This one is informative, well made, and altogether emotional.
I've basically seen bits and pieces of Marlon Riggs' work through my undergrad. And I don't think I've actually watched any of them in their entirety. If I did, it was his one documentary, Ethnic Notions. But as soon as I saw Criterion release this, which was recently, I knew I had to get it because this is like the first like good wide release of his work, and it's all of his works. And so yeah, it came out recently. I was familiar with him through minoring in Pan-African Studies at Kent State. So I had to get it, and when I knew that we were going to be covering black filmmakers and black voices for Black History Month this year, I felt like this is like what I needed to bring. I have plenty of other options that are great, that I would have loved, that might have not been so sad, but I was like, this is what feels necessary and right. And yeah, I think it's probably one of the most powerful films I've seen, not just documentary wise. I think just period it is, because it's not just the Marlon Riggs black experience, it is the full black experience. It's black women, it's gay black men and women, it's people that grow up in poorer neighborhoods and affluent neighborhoods. They're educated, not educated, kids, adults. He talks to everyone in this movie. It's not just him imparting his perspective upon everyone, and his perspective is powerful, and he recognizes that all of theirs is as well. Like Olivia said, like everyone has a different story to tell about their experience. And a lot of the people in this documentary, like Bell Hooks and Angela Davis, I mean, these are very important people within the black community, black scholars, people, activists, people that have done the work to try to make the country and the world a better place. And so, and they're everyday people too. I mean, there's like grandmas and pastors and everyone in this, and not one of their opinions is more important than the others. They're all incredibly important. And so yeah, I mean, I was holding back tears the whole entire time, and then at the end I just broke down. I couldn't hold it in anymore, and even just talking about it now, it still makes me want to cry. And yeah, I mean, I went into Pan-African Studies at Kent State because I wanted to give back to a community that I felt like gave a lot to me. When I came to Kent, when I started going to Kent Public Schools, I dressed a certain type of way, I looked a certain type of way. People would make fun of me, people would say that, you know, I looked gay and I wasn't gay and things like this, and it was all of the black community that uplifted me, and they made me feel comfortable in their skin. And I look back at that and I'm like, these people didn't even feel comfortable in their own skin, and here they are helping me. Like, I couldn't even believe that they did that. So that's why I wanted to do, you know, I wanted to learn more, I wanted to be better. I'm getting choked up talking about it, but yeah, it's really important to see, and
hey man, I feel it too. I do, man. When you put it that way too, it's just it's all too relatable. I feel like we've all been there before, where you don't feel good enough to the people around you, you know, and you look for acceptance, and
but yeah.
Oh, it's.
If this doesn't tell you enough about this movie,
I think I know the star count.
But yeah, I think this is, it's one of the best things I've ever seen. It's important to see, and it's funny because this isn't flashy. This isn't some big budget thing. This is what movies are all about to me. It's people telling their stories and being able to connect no matter where you're from or who you are. So yeah, it's really good.
I'm not gonna give this a star count. I don't know. I feel star count is kind of akin to, like, you know, a letter grade, like A through F, you know, but some courses are pretty much like pass fail, right? Mm-hmm. So this documentary is either watch or don't watch to me, and this gets a watch watch this?
I forgot, I also wanted to add, watching or hearing the people's story where they're sharing how they're queer and how they're not able to identify with that because their other identities, especially their black identity, would be looked at as less than or insignificant was it hit home for me because I know what it's like to, you know, not feel comfortable expressing that part of yourself or, you know, telling people that about you, like especially strangers and all of that. So being in that position where you can't even tell like your family, your community, like people that you're really close with that because you're worried about, you know, this label they'll either put on you or take away from you. So it was definitely very strong that it was just, you know, something I've experienced in a way, but not to that extent, and I can't imagine that kind of struggle. I'm on the same page as Rocket. I feel like I can't, like, put a star count on this and say, you know, this is this out of 10 or whatever. I think, you know, just saying this is something that everyone should watch, because putting that star count on it makes it seem like it's that, you know. People base what other people think on things and whether they should watch or not. Just, I don't think that's important here. I think what's important is that everyone should watch this.
Okay, so I completely understand not wanting to give this movie a star count, because a documentary this emotional, this prolific, this powerful, yeah, it does kind of trivialize it when you put that star count stamp onto it. On the other hand, when I was watching it, I was thinking, damn, this is a 10-star documentary, because I have seen documentaries in the past that weren't all that great. You know, this one ebbed and flowed in such a way that it kept my attention. It was artsy and creative and interesting, while also being informative and musical, and it reached into, you know, the vault of African American history and showed a lot of scenes from, you know, pop culture and film and, you know, all things encompassing African American culture in front of movie theaters and TV screens in one little documentary. So I thought this was well made, well put together, and I was thinking it's a 10 out of a 10, but you're right, like saying that somehow kind of diminishes its overall value. So if you need a star count, 10 out of 10, and I think that goes across the board.
Yeah, I'm with everyone else. I mean, this is one of those things, like, I mean, you can't rate the black experience, right? And I mean,
Yeah.
and this is the black experience in its rawest and most authentic form. You know, it's people telling their stories from every walk of life. And yeah, I mean, I would hope that me crying on the camera was enough for you to know if it's good or not. But yeah, I guess if you're really looking for something to grasp onto, like it's one of the most powerful films I've seen, and I've seen a lot of movies, not just with these people, but on my own time. I've seen a lot of movies, and yeah, it's very rare that you watch something that feels so powerful and so important, you know, and like it shouldn't just be taught in American schools. It should be taught everywhere. Everyone should know who Marlon Riggs is. And with the little knowledge that I've gathered from my Pan-African Studies class with his other documentaries, like they're all just as powerful as this. They're all they're just speaking from the heart and telling people how it is, no matter how hard that is to hear.
Moving on to film number 2 is Olivia's pick. What have you got in store for us tonight?
We have got Pariah, and it's not a documentary, but it is displaying the experience and of a queer black woman. So again, with identity, and those are both kind of intertwined in a way. So more of a storyline on this one rather than people sharing their experiences. So a little bit of what we've kind of heard and learned about in there, we'll be able to see it kind of lived out through this woman's life.
Hopefully I can dig up a little something for this flick. Check it out. We'll be right back with our opinions on it.
Heartbreak opens onto the sunrise, for even breaking is opening. And I am broken. I'm open. See the love shine in through my cracks. See the light shine out through me. My spirit takes journey, my spirit takes flight, and I'm not running. I am choosing.
I know for homecoming that I want to go with Craig.
And who are you going to go with, Lee?
I'm not going.
What do you mean you're not going?
If she doesn't want to go, she doesn't have to go.
For some reason, Lee just doesn't like anything I pick out for her anymore.
You look beautiful, baby.
This isn't me.
There's this new women's club up there by the liquor store. You haven't heard anything about it, right?
I never even heard of it. What if, say, somebody liked you? What if the person is kind of like a friend, but you know they like you more than that?
I told you, I talked to Alike. Everything's fine.
Did you ask her?
No, because I don't have to.
You don't want to face the facts.
No, damn it, that's not true. Look, when
Your daughter is turning into a damn man right in front of your eyes, and you can't say it.
I am broken. I am broken open. Breaking is freeing. Broken is freedom. I am not broken. I'm free.
I got to keep doing my thing. I got to keep doing my thing.
Alrighty, me and the crew just got done watching Pariah, directed by Bee Cee, and it was her feature film debut, which I want to start off by saying that's very impressive, because this was a really assured and good debut.
Yeah, wow.
This was Olivia's pick for this double feature to start off Black History Month, and I have to say I'm really glad that we watched this after Marlon Riggs' documentary, Black is Black Ain't. It's a coming-of-age tale dealing with a high school-aged black woman who is a lesbian, and she has to navigate people taking advantage of her sexuality. She has to manage the people that actually do care about her, and you know how she feels about them, family struggles, and just the struggles we all have at that age of getting through school and figuring out what you want to do with life, just figuring out who you are.
I don't know how much more outside of my wheelhouse I can get, right? I mean, as a straight white male, this is a story about a gay black woman, right? Like, you know, all the things she's experienced, like, I haven't gone through any of this, you know? Like, I mean, I've you know, had, you know, minority friends, and I have gay friends, so I've gotten bits and pieces. You know, I have female friends, so you know, you see little bits of that. But man, it kind of, I mean, that's the trifecta, right? And having watched Marlon Riggs' documentary before this, like, really drove that home. How it's like, you know, that it's like the last straw for the black community. Like, they're already so, you know, downtrodden, beaten down, you know, to you know, it's like the last straw to be gay on top of that. Like, how dare you, you know, subject us, you know, or yourself to further, you know, harassment. It's like, how could you, you know? You can see how upset the mother gets. Like how could you? Like, we're already struggling so much. Like, how could you be this, you know? And you know, and I mean, you can tell she's also, like, you know, thinking of herself and their image, you know, like you can see how the dad kind of gets, you know, harassed by some of the people in his life about it, you know, and it's just, man, it's I mean, it's a gut punch, you know, it really is, like, you know, but that's reality for, you know, a number of people, you know, whether, you know, not necessarily, you know, gay black women, but, you know, for gay folks, yeah, for women, for black people, like, this just kind of really rolls it all into one, and it's like, it's I mean, it's about as heavy as you can get, honestly. Like, I mean, what a powerful movie, and for this to be the debut.
I was reminded of another film that Bee Cee showed me called Moonlight, which, I mean, has to be said, because, I mean, this probably came out before it.
It did.
Yeah.
Which is...
But they both have very keystone elements, you know, narratively and even artistically. Like, the cinematography in this movie is very moody. It's up in everyone's face. You feel like you're almost in the headspace of all these main characters.
Lots of close-ups.
Yeah, and that lends it to the movie, too, because if you had these far-off shots, they might kind of come across as cold and calculated, but the director wants you to feel some sort of connectivity to these main characters, and by having that kind of claustrophobic, up in their face approach, it's a real winner from a cinematic standpoint. Narratively speaking, I thought it was very relatable, and it was kind of like what you were saying there, John, about how, like, who are we as, white dudes and one white chick to comment on something like this, you know what I mean? But at the same time, there are humanisms and relatability to these types of plights, because, as teenagers or even grown-ass adults, we go through, trials and tribulations of our own.
I would say this one was especially heavy for me because obviously I can relate in more ways than these guys can. Obviously, I can't understand the struggles of having a black identity, but I can relate to the struggles and understand, and I've experienced the struggles myself of being a woman and being queer and those together. So it's, hard to see those things because even if I haven't experienced those exact experiences that the main character did, it was almost as if I was experiencing those. So it was hard to watch them because it was almost as if I was living in my own reality.
I really put a star count on this, but at the end of the day, like most movies, a lot of movies are people's experiences, and we've rated them before. And given that this one, it's still deeply personal, but I guess cinematic is the right word. Being more cinematic in a sense does make it a little easier to rate. So I'll go for it still. But I guess the way that I'm going to go off of it is I've seen a lot of feature debuts, and this is one of the better ones I've seen. And maybe my perspective will change over time, but the only other real piece of queer black cinema I've seen outside of Marlon Riggs is Moonlight, which I think is a masterpiece too. And I have to say that this is right up there with it. I'm gonna give it a really high rating. I'm gonna give it, I think, an 8 with room to go up on future watches.
I was pulled in right away by this. Like this gripped me from the word go, and I was thoroughly engrossed throughout the whole thing. Like I never felt it was dragging or going too fast. Like I don't know. This buckled me in and took me along for the ride. I thought it was perfectly paced, honestly. And go with the technical aspects of the cinematography and the acting. The directing, the sound design, the soundtrack. It was all awesome. I loved it. I was completely drawn into the world, and I mean, I could really understand the characters and feel the emotion, and I mean, it blew me away. Like this was an incredible piece of cinema, and if I have to give it a star count, I have to give this a 10.
I'm kind of with Bee Cee on this one here. Initially, I wasn't exactly gripped from the acting or the narrative necessarily, but as the movie kind of unfolds, you kind of get enveloped with these characters. You get a little, wiggle room, and by the end of it, you're with it. You see what the director's trying to convey socially. Comparing it to Moonlight, I feel like they both work in tandem, but I gotta say, I preferred Moonlight because it does transverse like a decade or two with the character.
It goes from kid to teen to adult.
And there's something epic about that, where you see where the character came from as a child, and then a teenager, and then what they've become. And I felt like what the main character in that movie had become was so profound and such a shift in tone to the character that he was at the beginning that it was almost appalling.
Yeah.
It was almost, I mean, it was like, it was epic. This one doesn't have that broad of a scope in terms of the narrative, but it doesn't need to be, because you're focusing on one portion of time for this main character. So they're two different films, but that would make a hell of a double feature right there. You get the female perspective, and then you get the male perspective, and I can't think of anything that's more yin and yang than that. I'm going to go ahead and give this movie 8.5.
Thinking about what I would, the star count I would put on this was pretty easy for me, just because the representation of the struggles that queer people go through are like insanely accurate in this. Obviously not everyone has the same experience, but it captures a lot of those struggles and just captures the identity struggles that people go through, and the question that they have to ask themselves, like, is my identity and how I feel more important than my relationships with people, like people I love? Like, at some point they have to ask themselves, like, which is more important? And obviously, like, your identity and who you are should be put before that, but it shows just like it's okay to choose yourself, and you need to feel comfortable with yourself in order to, live your life comfortable. Like, you can't go on your entire life not living who you truly are. So this film is, I mean, I can't say anything bad about it, and the end is just, unfortunately, not every situation ends in that way. So it was a great ending, but I'm honestly gonna give it an 11 out of 10. I mean, obviously a 10 out of 10, but I'm just gonna go for an 11 just because it really resonated with me a lot and I really enjoyed it, so.
Wow. I gotta say, this is the perfect kickoff to Black History Month. We definitely touched on two very emotional pieces of cinema. And if you guys have never seen these movies, take the time to check them out. We wholeheartedly recommend them. They blew us away. I hope they blow you guys away too. I hope we've been informative, guys. Until the next time, tune in to Neon Trash.